The Tunguska Event is one of the most beloved events for conspiracy theorists in the 20th century. Some claim that in 1908 a UFO, Antimatter, a microscopic black hole, or ball lightning exploded over Siberia. Others blame experiments by Nikola Tesla, who allegedly tried to send an energy charge to Alaska. There are even people who believe that engineers of the Russian Empire created a nuclear bomb and dropped it from a dirigible. Reality only provides material for the strangest hypotheses. So what really happened in the Siberian wilderness at the beginning of the last century? Yenisei Province, the basin of the Podkamenia Tunguska River, June 30th, 1908. At 7:14 a.m., a sunny day with clear skies. Suddenly, a blazing object streaks across the sky above eastern Siberia, moving from the southeast to the northwest. It then explodes. The sound is similar to thunder or an artillery shot. Bright flashes of light accompany the explosion, so intense that it seems as if a second sun has ignited in the sky. Looking up is painful. Even 200 kilometers away from the explosion, windows are shattered, and many buildings suffer damage. Within the same radius, there are reports of livestock deaths and the demise of numerous animals, birds, and fish. The sound of the explosion is heard 1,000 kilometers away. The shockwave forces the engineer of the Trans-Siberian Express, 700 kilometers away, to stop the train. Echoes of this shockwave are recorded in various parts of the world, including Germany, the United Kingdom, Indonesia, and the USA. For several hours after the explosion, gray dusty trails from the object's movement remained visible in the sky over Siberia. Then, silvery clouds appeared. The following nights were unusually bright, not only in Siberia. Residents of Berlin, London, Vienna, and Copenhagen could read newspapers and take photographs at midnight without using a flash. During the day, people observed a phenomenon known as a solar halo, a bright ring around the sun caused by the scattering of light through dust particles in the atmosphere. These phenomena were recorded in at least 155 locations around the world. For the next few weeks, astronomers struggled to observe the stars due to the dusty atmosphere. This was even noted at the Mount Wilson Observatory in Los Angeles. Surprisingly, the press paid little attention to these extraordinary events. Most likely, it was because something even more dramatic had already occurred in 1883, the eruption of Krakatoa. The force of that event's earthquake was 10,000 times greater than the Hiroshima bomb. The entire planet trembled. In comparison, the Tunguska incident barely registered. Even in the Russian Empire, only a handful of small newspapers covered it. For instance, the Siberia newspaper on July 2, 1908, reported that peasants in a village had seen a strange object in the sky, shaped like a pipe or cylinder, white-blue in color. It slowly descended for about 10 minutes before vanishing behind the forest. Then a huge column of black smoke appeared, followed by a loud thud, but not an explosion. The ground began to tremble. Flames of unclear shape appeared over the forest. The villagers ran out into the street in panic. The women wept. Many believed the end of the world had come, and that might have been the end of it. But decades later, under Soviet rule, the story resurfaced. By the 1920s, the world had nearly forgotten the catastrophe. But local Evenki hunters had preserved vivid memories, which later helped researchers rediscover the mystery. In addition to the death of animals and fish, strange anomalies began to appear in local bodies of water shortly after the incident. Whirlpools started forming more frequently in lakes and rivers. In some places, water began to spurt upward without any visible cause, and new springs and wells broke through the ground. Some forests turned into dead zones. Fortunately, the shamans had a logical explanation. The thunder goddess had been offended and was angry. The first serious researcher to take an interest in the Tunguska phenomenon was Leonid Kulik, a man with a fascinating life. Born into nobility, he became a passionate Bolshevik even before the revolution. During the Soviet era, he pursued mineralogy and the exploration of natural resources. Kulik became one of the pioneers of meteorite astronomy in the USSR. In 1921, together with his university friend Pyotr Drevert, he set off on his first expedition to investigate meteorites that had fallen in Siberia. He was especially intrigued by the 1908 incident. Altogether, Kulik conducted 4 expeditions and studied the Tunguska phenomenon for 12 years. The most astonishing discovery awaited Kulik in the so-called Dead Forest, where researchers hoped to find a crater left by the meteorite impact. But they found no crater and no meteorite fragments. Instead, they discovered a surreal landscape. Trees, scorched and stripped of all branches, stood upright like bare poles. This anomaly covered an area 8 kilometers in diameter. Even more surprising, just beyond this zone were trees scorched and knocked down in a pattern radiating outward from the explosion's epicenter. The total area of the dead forest was 2,150 square kilometers. Most of it had burned in the fire that followed the explosion. The area was photographed from the air, and locals were extensively interviewed. Investigators even found 2 Evenki brothers whose chum, tent, had stood very close to the blast site. They reported waking to a strange whistling sound, then felt a powerful wind and tremors, one of which collapsed their tent. When they fled outside in panic, they saw the forest on fire. Interestingly, they claimed the fire started before a blinding flash, brighter than the sun, and a deafening explosion from the epicenter. The Tunguska meteorite had paralyzed a massive area of Siberian taiga, yet within 5 to 7 years, the forest had recovered, 10 times faster than normal. The dead trees decomposed into ash and humus, serving as rich fertilizer for new growth. Sometimes, out of destruction comes renewal. Thanks to Leonid Kulik's efforts, the mysterious event that occurred in Siberia in the summer of 1908 began to stir the minds of the scientific community. Yet, direct evidence of a meteorite impact was never found. The mystery surrounding the Tunguska event gave rise to some of the strangest conspiracy theories. Here are the most curious among them. One theory suggests that an alien spacecraft crashed over Siberia. This idea was proposed by Soviet science fiction writer Alexander Kazantsev in his books Burning Island and Explosion. He argued that the nuclear blast in Hiroshima and the Tunguska explosion were like twin brothers. The theory fascinated even rocket engineer Sergei Korolev, who dispatched a team into the taiga and arranged for a helicopter to assist them. When the mission yielded no results, he reportedly said, "Still, it's a pity you found nothing." While scientists long ago rejected this theory, it continues to excite UFO enthusiasts. Another version suggests that the explosion was the result of secret testing of some ultra-powerful weapon in the Siberian taiga. Kazantsev also proposed this idea, which remains a favorite in conspiracy circles. Some believe the explosion could have been from nuclear, or even alien, weapon tests. However, no abnormal radiation levels were ever detected at the site, leading to even stranger theories. A modern favorite among conspiracy theorists is the idea that Nikola Tesla was responsible. On that very day, he supposedly attempted to transmit a massive burst of energy to Alaska. But something went wrong, and the beam instead struck Siberia. The absence of records or documentation is explained away easily. Tesla destroyed them, convinced that humanity wasn't ready for such a powerful force. And, of course, there are many more theories. One of the more unusual theories is that a microscopic black hole somehow passed through the Earth in the early 20th century, causing the 1908 Tunguska event. No one can adequately explain how this would work physically, but black holes are still largely mysterious and not fully understood, even today. Another fantastic hypothesis proposes that the explosion was caused by a celestial body made of antimatter. Upon contact with Earth's matter, mutual annihilation would have released pure energy, thus explaining the absence of any metal debris or extraterrestrial rock fragments. Yet another version suggests a massive ball lightning explosion. There's also a theory that natural gas, such as methane, seeped through the Earth's crust and accumulated in the area, eventually igniting and causing the blast. However, this theory fails to account for several atmospheric phenomena reported across the globe, such as the eerie bright nights and strange cloud formations. And the prize for the most tongue-in-cheek theory goes to a geologist who was badly bitten by insects in the taiga. He jokingly proposed that the explosion was caused by a massive mosquito cloud with a volume of 5 cubic kilometers. In short, no one knows for sure what happened, but some things have been established with confidence. It's now widely accepted that the 1908 Tunguska incident in the Podkamenia Tunguska River Basin was of cosmic origin. The soil and plant life in the area contain elevated levels of rare earth metals, which are typically extraterrestrial. Eyewitness accounts and scientific surveys of the region support this conclusion. But the real debate continues around what exactly fell from the sky. Proponents of the meteorite theory, that it was a rocky or metallic space body, point to Lake Checo as a possible impact crater. Its funnel-like shape and the presence of rare elements like germanium, iridium, and molybdenum in the lakebed sediment support this view. However, no actual fragments of a meteorite have ever been found there. In fact, nearby Lake Zapovednoye also has a similar structure and similar deposits, and both lakes seem to have formed prior to 1908. Scientists have scoured massive swathes of Siberian taiga for over a century, but have found no trace of any meteorite remnants, not in lakes, not underground, not anywhere. The comet hypothesis has also faced criticism. A body made entirely of ice and dust would not have been able to penetrate the atmosphere deeply enough to cause such an explosion. But there's an intriguing new theory, the Beta Tauride meteor stream, which reaches its peak at the end of June, the same time as the Tunguska Event. It suggests that the object could have been a comet with a rocky core surrounded by dust and ice. Such a core could plunge into the lower atmosphere, where pressure would cause it to explode violently, releasing a tremendous amount of energy. Its loose, porous structure would have disintegrated into microscopic fragments, which then mixed into the soil and water of the region, making it impossible to find traditional meteorite pieces. As of now, this is the most coherent and evidence-supported theory, but the mystery endures. Future expeditions may uncover more clues. Perhaps the most astonishing thing, no one died. Despite the destructive power of the explosion, not a single fatality occurred. There wasn't even widespread panic. A similar incident occurred in the Brazilian jungle in 1930. The object was much smaller, and the explosion's power was significantly lower. However, this didn't stop the local tribes from interpreting the event as a sign of the apocalypse. As a result, local missionaries had to step in to calm the panicked people, persuading them not to take poison. Whatever fell in Siberia could just as easily have landed on a major city. And if such an explosion occurred during the Cold War, it's hard to predict how the nuclear powers would have reacted. In conclusion, the main takeaway from this story is that as a species, humans are incredibly lucky. As for the mystery of the Tunguska Event, humanity will eventually solve it. Given our luck, it's just a matter of time.